Hi, I'm Carly Cornell.
And I'm Harvey Cornell, and we are Dragon Phoenix Games.
So welcome. What we're going to do here is show you an example of a series of turns from Phobos Falling. We have 4 officers that we are playing today. I'm playing Kit, who is the mass mover officer. She's a member of the engineering team. And Newt, who is one of the bridge officers.
And I have Bash, the first officer, and Angel, the science officer.
So we're going to start with Kit's turn. Just to give you a little idea what the situation is at this point in the game, we're probably 5 or 6 turns in. And where we're at is the life support is out through the entire core. You can see that the core life support system has damage in the system area. And there is also life support on ring 1 is also out, because you can see the system and the power are both out on that one, so that one's even more damaged. But we do have life support fully functional here on ring 2, which is where everybody is. Now it's possible to move around the station if you have a spacesuit, because without life support there's probably areas that have air and areas that are in vacuum, don't know. But everybody's safe here in the science lab, but we want to bring some more life support on so that we can move about more freely, so that we can find the things that we need to get onto our shuttle and escape from here. So we're going to start with Kit trying to go out and to do a repair because she has a spacesuit. So that is equipped here, and that means that she can go out anywhere she needs to go. So she is going to follow the normal play actions for a turn. The first one is to move, the second is explore, the third is fight, fourth is play, fifth discard, and then reveal. That's the sequence that everybody follows. So she's going to start with move, and she's going to move from the science lab here to the mass mover area. That is her specialty area. She's got some special abilities in working with the mass mover, so there's lots of good reasons for her to bring that back online. One of the things that she has a special ability is that she can restore power without using a power card. So that's the first thing she's going to do, is restore the power on the mass mover system. Now it's functional, and so now you can use the mass mover to move about on the station. One of the things that she wants to do next is go start working on the core life support. So if it were at the right point in her action to move, she could move up through the core, except for one tiny little problem, and that is there's an axis problem here in Hub 1. So even if it were the right time to move, she can't. So the mass mover is a really good choice. So she's going to transport herself to the core life support section, and now she can look and see if she can do anything to help fix this. She didn't get to explore because there were no cards in the mass mover section, and she has no need to fight because there are no pirates in the areas where she is. So she's going to play some cards. One of the things that she has is a repair system card, and that is going to allow her to fix the core life support. So we get rid of the damage, and then we discard this card. And that means that now the entire core section has life support, and the other officers can come and go through both ring 1, or is that 2?
2.
Ring 2, and the core. So
except for the small access problem that they can't pass through Hub 1, so they will have some restricted movement. They can get through, but they have to lose a turn as they stop for the clear the access. So
that being the case, she might want to do something here to help an officer out. And if you're looking to move somewhere up in this section, maybe I could transport you up.
Yeah, I think we should be working on trying to get some software done, because we're going to need the Earth orbit insertion course, which is what is the path the shuttle will have to take to get back to Earth. We do that from the bridge by collecting the technical data necessary to complete that course calculation. So I need to be on the bridge to start that. So yes, I would like to be moved up to the bridge.
Okay, so that is one of my other abilities, is that I can remotely operate the mass mover. So I'm going to transport my friend Bash up here to the core life support area with me.
Okay, and although she could have transported me directly to the bridge, it was probably a little bit wiser to move me to the core life support where she is, because if she happened to draw a station boarded by pirates, at least two of us being together, we could help defend each other from the pirates. So it was, even though she could have just dropped me off at the bridge directly, I still have a chance to move there. So it was probably a good choice to put me here, because if we do get pirates, you know, there's safety in numbers.
Yeah. So that is the first 4 sections of my turn. I would need to discard except that I'm not at my hand limit, so I don't need to bother with that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is reveal an event. And I've revealed the Cosmic Radiation Burst. This is one of the special events that there are 2 of them every time you go through the event deck. And when we say special, what we mean by that is exceptionally horrible. So this one says that crewmen move to safe zones, which is like engineering or the bridge, or are injured or killed. There's battery power only for 1 round, so everybody has to huddle up in one of these safe areas for an entire round of play, and we've only got battery power. So if there's any way to avoid this bad boy, we want to do that. I don't have anything in my ability to do it, and Newt doesn't. Do you have anything?
Well, as it turns out, the science officer, Angel, does have a special ability. It's a passive ability, which means I can use it on another player's turn when the right situation arises. And that event would allow me to cancel an event drawn by another player if I discard 4 cards from my hand. And as it turns out, I do have 5 cards, so I think I should go ahead and do that, because that's a pretty bad event.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose 4 cards. I'm going to keep my repair system because it looks like the most valuable card that I have. But I will discard these 4 to allow us to ignore that event.
Okay. And as a one-time event, it goes out of the game. So that's the end of Kit's turn, and now it is Bash's turn.
Okay, so what Bash was hoping to do is to calculate the Earth orbit insertion course. And one of the things that you have to do in every game is you have to calculate the course to get the shuttle that we're working on back to Earth, so that we can get all the surviving crewmen, in addition to the officers, safely back to Earth. The way we do that is by going to the bridge and working with the software, which we represent by collecting technical data until you have 5 points, so that you can say that you've completed that piece of software. So he wants to go to the bridge and work on that technical data, but it's a pretty big job to get, because we're going to have to get 5 pieces of technical data, and so I was hoping to get some help from another officer. And the next one that's going to have a turn is Newt, and Newt is also a specialist in the bridge systems. So I was hoping to get some help. However, what I can see is that on Newt's turn, even though the core life support is on and he's allowed to be there without a spacesuit, the Hub 1 access is blocked. So if he tries to move, he's going to get stopped there and waste some time trying to get through that blockage. So what I was thinking is that I would make use of Bash's active ability to borrow another officer's special ability, which I can only do if I'm in the same zone. But I happen to be in the zone with Kit, who has the ability to use a mass mover remotely to move another officer around. So I want to take my ability to borrow Kit's ability to use the mass mover remotely. So I'm going to state that that's my intention, is to use that ability. I don't have to use it immediately. I can say that that's what I'm going to use my borrow ability for, but then I'll wait until later in my turn to use it. So I'll start with on the crew turn, the first thing is to move. So I'm not ready to use that ability to move Newt, but I'm going to go ahead and use my own regular move to move to the bridge. And now that I'm on the bridge, since I can use my ability anytime, I will use my ability, if that's okay with you, to bring Newt.
Yep.
So I will transport Newt using that ability to the bridge to join me. Okay, and now I'm done with my move phase. So on the explore phase, now I can use that to draw cards if I'm in a zone that has a draw deck. And the bridge does have a draw deck called the bridge card deck. And so I want to use that to draw cards. Now I have a special ability to allow me to draw 3 cards from any deck, but I'm only able to draw 3 cards if the station is on main power. And as it happens, the solar power's down, so we are not using main power on the station. We have to use our backup system, which is the auxiliary power. The auxiliary power system is functional and there is power in that zone, so we are able to use auxiliary power. We currently have 2 fuel and auxiliary power, so we are able to use auxiliary power. So I can draw up to 2 cards, which is the maximum allowed by auxiliary power. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to get 2 bridge cards. And I drew first off a fusion beam, which could be used to help with pirates if I need it. I don't have any pirates right now, so I'll just put that in my hand. And I also drew a force field, which I could use to place a force field. You know, if you're on the bridge and you have at least auxiliary power, you can use this to place a force field somewhere on the station as long as that zone has power functional. So I could use that to place 1 force field. However, since I'm also playing with Newt, who has a special ability with force fields, which allows him to put 2 force fields out per card that he uses, I think it's wiser to not use it myself, but allow him to use it. And since he is in the same zone, I can just pass Newt this card for him to use on his turn.
Cool.
So I'll do that. And then I don't have... that's the end of my explore phase. I don't need to fight anybody because there's no pirates here. I don't actually need to play any cards in the bridge zone, so I don't have to do anything on phase 4, play. And the next one is to discard. Now the hand limit for a 4-officer game is 8 cards, and I happen to have 9 cards right now, so I'm going to have to get rid of a card somehow. That could be by discarding a card back into one of the draw decks, or since I happen to be in the zone with another character, Newt, if he has room, I can pass a card to him to get my hand down to the limit. So I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And since he's more likely to stay on the bridge for a while than I am, since he's a bridge officer, and I tend to move around with being the first officer, the fire fusion beam is a good choice. The fusion beam system is active. You also have to have auxiliary power at least on. We do, so it is possible for him to use this card if the situation arises. So I'm just going to pass that over to Newt.
Okay.
That will give him a card he might use and get me down to my card limit. So that ends the discard phase, and the last phase is the reveal. So I'll draw an event and reveal that. And look, I drew a station boarded, so the asteroid pirates are going to try to board our ship, which is not good. And I could ignore this event if it was drawn by either Rush or the Baron, but it was not. I'm Bash, so I don't get to ignore the event. However, if you'll also notice on here, the number of pirates that will board depends on the Cataclysm stage. If you look here, we are on Cataclysm stage 2, so that means there will be 7 pirates boarding. However, I don't really want to have to deal with that. We don't know where they're going to board yet, but as it turns out, if anyone on the bridge can fire a fusion beam or a torpedo and the system is active, and the systems are active, I actually have a torpedo beam, and Newt also has a fire fusion beam. I think it would be wise to let Newt go ahead and fire on those pirates, don't you? Okay, so Newt is going to fire the fusion beam, and
that goes out of the game.
That's going to stop those pirates. Now so we're not going to have to deal with this because the fusion beam is fired, and yet that goes out of the game. We don't get to put it in the discard because it was used that way. But this one does go in the discard, and it will come up again the next time we go through the deck. But that does resolve that event, so we don't have to deal with it, and that's going to end Bash's turn. So next up is going to be Newt. Okay.
So Newt wants to look for some tech data, work on that insertion program some more. So I'm not going to bother with moving because I'm already where I want to be. I'm going to go directly to explore and draw 2 cards from the bridge deck. Thank you. Now I have drawn a fire torpedo, so I have weapons again, and that's a good thing. And I got some technical data. So what I have to do about that is discard that and raise the level of the tech data to indicate that we've got that much of the software developed.
And that's something you do automatically when you draw a tech data card and you're on the bridge. That's not actually part of play. That's if you draw a tech data card, you immediately discard it and advance that track.
Then that completes my explore. Now I could fight. There's nobody to fight. I can play some cards now. So I'm looking here. Normally we play hands up, but for the purposes of this video, we thought hands down would make it possible for us to show you what we've got and what we're doing. I have here the force field card that Officer Bash gave me here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and deploy these force fields. Since I get to do 2, I'm going to pull them up. It's always a good idea to have one where you're working, so we'll put one on the bridge, and of course life support too, if you think that.
Yeah, I think
that
life support's good. It doesn't prevent the life support system from going down, but if the pirates were to try to board in that area, they would be delayed trying to get through the force field, so to give us some time to react.
Right. So that takes care of that card. I don't have any use for any of these cards, so I'm going to stop there. Don't need to discard, and then I'm ready to reveal my event. So I have a computer reset here, which would normally undo all that tech data that I just created, but it says here I can ignore it if drawn by Newt, which happens to be me. So.
Good job, Newt.
So we're going to ignore that event.
And what that really means is when you get to a negated event like that, it's saying that the special ability of that officer, they were able to circumvent what happened. So Newt's a specialist in computers, so he's able to prevent the computer reset from happening.
Right. So now it's Angel's turn.
Okay, so Angel is here in the science lab where she's been for a while. And now Angel is a science officer, so she does have a specialization which allows her to draw 3 science cards. But again, that depends on if we're on main station power, and we're not. So she can't use her ability to draw 3 cards, but because we're on aux power, she can still draw 2 cards. And she also could choose to come to the bridge to help with tech data. However, the path that would get her to the bridge does have an access blockage in Hub 1, which would cause her to stop and waste a turn there. So rather than doing that, I think I'm going to go ahead and have her stay in the science lab, because there are a couple of things in the science lab that we do need to help us get back to Earth. There is the cryogenic systems, and there's also water reclamation. If we have to get all the remaining people back to Earth, there's not just the 4 officers, there's other crewmen. And so we either have to have the cryogenic system so that we can cryogenically freeze the majority of the people, or we have to have the HAB module, in which case we would need several other things, one of which is water reclamation. So the cryogenic systems and the water reclamation are both in the science lab, and we haven't found them yet, so I'm going to see if I can find those for us. And so I'm allowed to draw 2 cards, and well, I don't need to do the move phase because I'm already in science lab, so I'll just skip to explore and draw 2 cards. And so, okay, first I drew a heal wound card, which would be useful if someone had been wounded by the pirates, but no one has been wounded, so I'll just save that for later, and maybe it'll come in handy later. The other card is the cryogenic systems card, which I was looking for, so that's a good thing for us.
Yeah.
So, however, I can't do anything with it right now. I just have to hold on to it until we can convert that into cryo tubes and get it placed on the shuttle. So I'm just going to put it in my hand and save it until the right time. And so that ends my explore action. I don't have anyone to fight. There's no pirates on board. And I don't really need to play any of these cards right now. And so that brings me to discard. The hand limit's 8 and I only have 3, so I don't need to discard anything. And so that leaves me with revealing event. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I got a power loss in 1 zone, which that means one of the zones is going to go lose its power. However, if it had been drawn by Kit or by Bam Bam, and Kit is in the game but did not draw the card, unfortunately, so we don't get to ignore this event for that reason anyway. Now, I do also have the active ability in Angel that she can cancel any event she draws by discarding 3 cards from her hand. I do have 3 cards, But you know, I don't think I want to give up this cryogenic
No,
systems because
not
it's
yet.
too important. So this is not really that bad an event, so I'm just going to go ahead and deal with it. So what we're going to have to do is draw a zone marker from the bag randomly to see which zone loses power. And oh, I see we lost power in engineering, which is not very good,
Okay.
but we'll just have to deal with that. So I'll take a marker and mark that power is out in engineering, and that will be the event. And we're going to probably have to get that fixed.
That's going to slow us down on the
Yeah.
cryogenic tubes too, because you can't do the fab on it without engineering on
Right,
one. So
it is going to delay us later, but we'll have to deal with that when the time comes. But that does end Angel's turn. And so she's the last of the 4 officers that we're playing with, so the next thing that would happen is if there were pirates on board, it would be their turn. Since we have no pirates, thank you Fusion Beam,
yep,
So-
again.
we don't have to deal with that, so there's no pirate turn. And the very last thing is, well actually we got this out of order. This was supposed to be on 2, the auxiliary power fuel, so the last thing we would do is if the station's running on auxiliary power, which it was, then we have to move this fuel down 1 point to represent the fuel that we use to run the station off of aux power. But we still have 1 more point of aux power, so we'll be able to use aux power for the next round. But that does end 1 round of play for the officers on Phobos Falling. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks.